What's going on, everyone, and welcome to Season 20, Episode 3 of Hitting the Field. I'm your host, Nick Cohen, and I'm so happy to be back, as 2 weeks ago we didn't have studio, and then last week, of course, was our Super Bowl special, in which, in case you live under a rock, the Philadelphia Eagles defeated Lord Patrick Mahomes, Taylor Swift, and the Kansas City Chiefs in search of a three-peat. Some said it was a very boring game, but I kind of disagree. Sure, it was a blowout until the fourth quarter, but it was high scoring, and I think we can all agree that's much better than not. Anyway, the Super Bowl is in our past, and we have a lot to focus on today. We're recapping a very wild NBA trade deadline, previewing the upcoming F1 season and all the driver changes, and then I'll be talking about this weekend's NBA All-Star break. Don't go anywhere, because I promise you won't want to miss this. Hitting the Field starts right now.
Things gon' change when I really hit the field. Undefeated champs, man, you know what's the deal. Tryna find a kid, I'm in the field doing drills. Boy, you just a sucker, you ain't never keep it real. 3 rings in my hand, I'm a warrior to the max. When I hang it up, they gon' have to give me plaques. Step up in the building and I only bring the facts. When I make a highlight, they gon' replay, run it back. Okay, always locked in, now I don't got time to lax. Saying he the best, he could take a lap. Batted 1,000 when you check the stats. Boy, is you ready? You ain't gotta ask.
And welcome back. Now I'm joined to my right, which is a pretty usual thing, back to our bet stays, Tyler Brownrigg, and to my left is Ben Hubert. Ben, how are you doing?
I'm doing great today. I'm ready to talk about NBA trade deadline.
Absolutely. And Tyler?
I'm doing great. I'm in my spot as always. I love this spot at the desk. It's
Absolutely. So this NBA trade deadline was one of the craziest ever. There was numerous big-time trades, league-altering trades, and probably the biggest one, maybe in history, is what you're going to talk about. Tyler, Get right into it.
The obvious headliner of the trade deadline was the Luka trade. Luka Doncic was sent from the Dallas Mavericks to the LA Lakers, and in what is just the most insane trade ever. The Lakers received Luka Doncic, Maxi Kleber, and Markieff Morris in this trade. The Mavericks received Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a 2029 first-round pick. The Jazz were also involved in this trade, receiving Jalen Hood-Schifino and 2 second-round picks from the Clippers and the Mavs. This was insane. It still doesn't feel real, even after Luka has made his Lakers debut, played 2 games for them. The Lakers obviously won this trade. They get a generational player in his prime. He's still only 25 years old. It's you don't do this in the NBA. There is no reason to do this. Now, right now, he is on a bit of a minutes restriction, yet to cross that 25-minute mark and yet to break 20 points. But when he's back fully healthy, he was injured in December, he's going to be the same Luka Doncic, averaging over 28 points per game. He was the leading scorer last year. And if you're the Mavericks, a Mavs fan, I just don't know what to tell you. This is a guy who you're thinking was going to get a statue right next to Dirk. And now, just like that, in the middle of the night, out of nowhere, he's gone. And you have Anthony Davis, who is a great player in his own right, but now he's hurt and out indefinitely. We don't know when he'll come back. And it just gets worse because now Daniel Gafford is hurt. P.J. Washington is now going to have to be your starting center. It's just not good at all for the Mavericks in any way, shape, or form.
No, and P.J. Washington's like 6'8". He is not a center. He's a small power forward at that. Like, I don't know what the Mavs are going to be doing. And Derek Lively, their promising rookie from last year, is also out. So the Mavericks are kind of a mess right now. Ben, I don't think any of us really know what Nico Harrison was thinking, general manager of the Mavs. Any idea?
I mean, it's a head scratcher for sure. I mean, I don't know what he was thinking. Obviously, he's probably just frustrated with his star, and he's like, get him out of my face. He just made an emotional decision, maybe.
Right. And I mean, we heard reports that part of the reason that Luka was traded was because he was a little bit overweight. His conditioning wasn't top tier. That's not the main reason.
It's not it.
It's a cover-up.
It's Dallas ownership is the reason he is gone. They have their own plans and wants for the team in building casinos and hotels near the arena. But obviously they can't do that because gambling is illegal in Texas. So the best way to do that is for the owners to take the team back to Vegas, which is where they made all their money from, because Mark Cuban obviously sold the Mavs. He's now the minority owner, and he was outraged by this trade when he made his first public statement. But it's just, you don't do this. Even if this is something you want as a team, you were in the finals last season. And then you trade arguably definitively the second greatest player in Mavs history.
Yes. Top 5 player in the
He's
league.
been he's top 2 maybe.
3,
He's been all NBA first team for 5 straight years. He was the MVP runner-up. He was the scoring champ last year. Just the accolades for Luka Doncic go on. Now, the only thing that's bad about this for the Lakers, obviously, is they don't have a center. The Mark Williams trade was rescinded. Jackson Hayes is now your starting center, it's looking like. So they did bring in Alex Len, but you can't realistically stop Nikola Jokic, which is the question for everyone in the West is, can we make the finals? Yeah. Can we stop? How do you do that? You need to stop Jokic. So it's just, they need to figure that out. And Len and Hayes is definitely not going to be the answer, but maybe a combination of Luka and LeBron can just carry them past it.
Well, and you have to think. I mean, maybe Ant and the Timberwolves aren't going to be much of a team in the way.
They
of
will
them
not.
This year.
No, they will not do that because
But I won't get you
everything
started.
sucks.
I won't get you started on that. Just have to clown you whenever I can. And you also kind of have to think maybe Jerry Jones isn't the worst owner in Dallas right now. Like,
Oh, by no stretch is he at this point. All right,
mean-
there's no generational player on the Cowboys that they can trade. Maybe Micah Parsons, but no, this is infinitely worse. Even if that were to happen.
I mean, to be a Dallas sports fan is right up there with like Detroit or Miami. But Ben, please get into your trade. Another big trade, and it included a top 3 favorite player of mine. So
Wow. Yeah, let's break this one down. The Spurs get De'Aaron Fox and Jordan McLaughlin. The Kings get Zach LaVine, Sidi Siako, 3 first-round picks, 1 from the Hornets, 1 from the Spurs, 1 from the Timberwolves, and then 3 second-round picks. And the Bulls, also involved in this trade, get Zach Collins, Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter, and their own 2025 first-round pick back. So I honestly like this trade a lot. The Spurs benefit. They add another star to go alongside Wemby. Obviously, but what he brings to the table is a lot more than that. He's a good passer, pretty good defender. He can score from all areas of the court. He can run the pick and roll with Wemby, something that they really need to get going. And then he can take the load off of Wemby by being the leader of that backcourt. And they really didn't give up much of their future. They didn't leverage their future for this trade either. They give up 3 first-round picks, which seems like a lot, but when you really look at the trade or look at the picks, they're not going to be all that great. The best one is going to be the one from the Timberwolves, but even then, they're not going to get that one until 2031. So is it really going to matter that much? Can we really know how much they're going to get out of that? But when it comes to the Kings, I feel like they're in denial, honestly.
Yeah.
They try to add this guy. They think they're going to be in a position to win now, but it's pretty clear that they're just nowhere near winning now. They may be a play-in team. They're going to pair Zach LaVine back up with DeMar DeRozan. It didn't work in Chicago. It's not going to work in Sacramento. So it's a better fit, but I think you give up your star player for way less than what he's worth.
I agree with that. And I mean, luckily, DeMar is still performing pretty well, especially at his age. But I do think this Kings team is much better than the Bulls team when DeMar and LaVine were in Chicago. Domantas Sabonis is amazing, and they just have so many other pieces. Malik Monk is a star. I think star.
I do like Malik Monk.
Okay.
One of the best 6-man in the league.
Yes, 100%. But I was alluding to De'Aaron Fox earlier when I said top 3 favorite player in the league right now. And just shout out to Matthew Bracker for giving me him in fantasy basketball. So thank you very much. I really like this trade personally, but then we're going to move on to Jimmy Butler going to the Golden State Warriors, okay? I was elated when I saw this news because Jimmy Butler was nothing shy of a locker room cancer for the Miami Heat, okay? He absolutely handled wanting to get out of Miami terribly. He handled that terribly. The full trade, after 5 teams were involved, is Jimmy Butler going from the Heat to the Warriors, as well as 2 second-round picks and some cash considerations. And then the Heat get Andrew Wiggins and Kyle Anderson, and then they also received PJ Tucker, but they flipped him for Davion Mitchell, which I think was a fantastic move. It gets us another guard who knows how to play defense and can just facilitate the floor. They also get a 2025 first-round pick from the Warriors, which should be okay. It is protected, but if, it gets protected this year, we'll just get the following year. The Jazz receive KJ Martin from the Pistons, via the Sixers, and Josh Richardson from the Heat, as well as a 2028 second-round pick and a 2031 second-round pick, and more cash considerations from the Heat. And then the Pistons received Dennis Schroeder from the Jazz via the Warriors, and Lindy Waters from the Warriors, a 2031 second-round pick. And then the Raptors, finally, they received PJ Tucker, cash considerations from the Heat. They're just giving cash to everyone, and then a 2026 second-round pick. Now, as I said, I was very happy that this trade happened. Jimmy Butler, he only played in 28 out of 54 games this season. And the Warriors, they've been 2-1 since this trade. The Heat, we haven't won a game. But listen, Jimmy Butler wasn't playing for us anyway, so it does us no good, okay? He's only averaging about 17 points per game this season, 5 assists, 5 rebounds. But again, that's only in 28 games. And yeah, I'm very happy about this. Wiggins has averaged 12 points per game in his 2 games that he's played with Miami. Any thoughts on this trade, Tyler?
I mean, this is the last ride for the Warriors. This is what this trade has signified. And Steph Curry was aware of that. Draymond Green said on his podcast, like, Steph Curry made it, like, this is it. This is their last chance with Jimmy, Curry, and Draymond now is this core 3. Is it one that can get it done and make a run somehow? I don't really think so. Playoff Jimmy is a thing. We've seen it in the past with Miami. He was one of Miami's greatest playoff performers we've ever seen in his stint there, going to 2 finals, coming all the way from an 8 seed. But Jimmy Butler is obviously, he's getting up there in age. Curry's getting up there in age. Draymond is Draymond. So it's just not really realistically, I think, they can overcome, say, like the Nuggets or the Thunder. They don't have the size to compete with either of those teams, really.
Yeah.
So it's just not, I think, a long-term solution.
Really quickly, Ben, was there any other trades from this crazy deadline that stuck out a little bit to you?
I mean, what do you think? What is other trade?
I mean,
that
the
you think?
Raptors landed Brandon Ingram from the Pelicans.
Brandon
I think
Ingram,
that
yeah.
one was huge. Chris Middleton got shipped off,
Yep.
which sucks to be
Kyle
him.
Kuzma.
There was so many trades from this year, but thank you guys very much for coming on for this segment. After this commercial, we will be talking F1, so don't go anywhere. Hello. So I guess the crew's getting ready for the next segment on one of our amazing shows. I'm Nick Cohen, host of season 20 of Hitting the Field, and let me tell you about those amazing shows. On behalf of HTF, we hope you're enjoying today's content, but I'm here to tell you about everything else we offer here at the network. Mondays at 4, HTF Bets goes live for season 10 with 3 gamblers that, although it may not always seem like it, are here to help us all earn a little bit of extra money while we watch sports. Diego Ortiz, Tyler Brownrigg, and Andrew Gregg's ball knowledge and fun personalities make this show a fan favorite. On Tuesdays, you all loved it, so we brought it back for season 2. It's Girls Got Game, hosted by Frankie Noble, a show blending women in sports, the biggest sports news stories, and creative segments that make for a fun and engaging show. Next is everyone's favorite sports podcast, The Combine, hosted by who other than Ty Patton, an easygoing, conversational, and technical podcast dropping Wednesdays, also on Spotify at The Combine. Then tune in Thursdays at noon for the network's main show, season 20 of Hitting the Field, hosted by me. Here, we'll cover any sport, any topic, any story, no matter how obscure. We love some football, basketball, hockey, F1. We also cover baseball, soccer, and we even have to show the UFC love sometimes. Penultimately, TGIF, because Friday is nighttime, hosted by Kathleen Moore and Matthew Bracker. Season 8 of Nighttime is where you'll turn to for all things March Madness, UCF sports, and other collegiate events. We're ending with something brand new. HTFN has never had 6 shows running at once. Also filmed in our new podcast studio is HTFC, hosted by Edgar Rodriguez and Patrick De Leon. Football, or soccer in America, is the most popular sport in the world. Across multiple leagues and cups, soccer is a year-round sport, and HTFC is your new source to stay updated. Also on Spotify, by the way, at HTFC. Outside of our 6-show roster, be sure to tune in to our other content, such as the Studio Days vlog, run by our vlog squad of Brianna St. Jean, Michaela Croker, Ashley Rowe, and Ben Huber. Make sure to follow us on our social medias like Instagram, Facebook, and X to stay updated on all HTFN news. Remember to subscribe right here on YouTube, leave a like and comment. And with that, I think we're ready for your next segment. I'm Nick Cohen. Thank you for your continued support, and back to your regularly scheduled programming. Welcome back. Joining me to my right is Robert Hudson, I believe making your main show debut, right?
Yes, thank you
Awesome.
for having me.
Of course, thank you. And then to my left, we had Tyler earlier, back to the bet stays. Now, Andrew Greig, how are you doing?
Oh man, I'm doing awesome. I'm glad that I can sit to your left once again on
Absolutely.
On Main Show this time.
I mean, last time you were on Main Show, you were over there, and that was weird.
It was a little bit of a discomfort for me, but I'm glad to be back in this seat.
Absolutely. So we're going to jump right into F1. The season is approaching in just about a month or so. There's been so many driver changes this season, and when I was doing some research, I found out Lewis Hamilton is in Fortnite, guys. I think that's a little bit crazy. Big deal.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
Are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Mm-hmm. Probably like $10 gets you his skin. I don't know.
I could be Lewis Hamilton?
You could be. I mean, that sounds like a ton of fun. But I'm going to jump into Kimi Antonelli going to Mercedes. Okay, Kimi is notably a member of a pretty large rookie and newbie class this year in drivers. He has shown promise at the lower levels and was signed early on by Mercedes as a Hamilton replacement. George Russell shapes to be the team's #1 driver as Antonelli develops and grows into what the team believes he is. Now, in the 2024 season in the F2, he had 2 wins, 3 podium finishes, and he averaged going about 8.9 for his finish. And he did, unfortunately, have 3 did-not finishes. But that's besides the point. Now he's in F1. Fun fact, he only got his driver's license in Italy this week, which is kind of crazy. He drives F1 cars for a living and couldn't drive in his hometown. He's transitioning from F2 Prema Racing to Mercedes AMG. And one thing's for sure, he has potential. But is Mercedes the home to find it?
Ooh.
Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, like if you look at the development of Lewis Hamilton, obviously he came in as a world champion already, but Mercedes is definitely the place where you'd find some success. There's obviously Red Bull is very good at developing. They have their kind of F1 slash a junior team in Toro Rosso or whatever they're called now, Red Bull, like the Red Bull affiliate. But I think he's going to find a lot of success at Mercedes, and I hope he does because he's one of the youngest racers ever in F1 history.
Absolutely. And so I'm just going to have Robert jump right into Lewis Hamilton, which is the craziest transition, okay?
Yeah.
He is now a member of Ferrari.
Yeah, so Kimi Antonelli obviously has big shoes to fill here, taking over for Lewis Hamilton. Lewis, notably 7-time world champion, questionably an 8th, depending on how you view the 2021 season, but he's going to Ferrari. This is a crazy move, really only predated by Sebastian Vettel leaving Red Bull after being a world champion to go to Ferrari, which notably didn't end in a world championship. Sebastian Vettel only ever got 14 wins with Ferrari after world championships with Red Bull. But with Lewis Hamilton moving to Ferrari, last season alone he had 2 race wins, 5 podium finishes, and he had 2 DNFs. You can look at those stats and you can question a little bit, does he still have that form? But a big thing to do within that season is look at the position of Mercedes. Since 2021, they struggled to find their home within their car development, and they had a zero-pod concept, which really struggled. And so Lewis Hamilton's stats really dipped in the last 3 years, not just because of his lack of driving or his fall off, as some people are claiming, but I also don't think he's going to Ferrari to be that top guy. Ferrari is taking him to be the guy to challenge the engineers. Ferrari has notably had people struggle in that engineer role, and they struggle strategy-wise. That is where they lose the races. And Lewis's vast experience coming in to replace Sainz is going to be really good in challenging those race decisions, saying, hey, this is when we need to pit. This is when we should switch to hards. We're going to need wets in 1 lap. And that experience coming in is what they're looking for to replace Sainz, not that world driver potential. I don't think he's going to win a championship at Ferrari.
Absolutely. Well, so that was a pretty big transition, but the guy that Hamilton is replacing is Carlos Sainz, and he is going to Williams. Andrew, talk about that.
Yeah, so Carlos Sainz, my second favorite driver, only to Max Verstappen, unfortunately, is going to Williams, where he will be probably near the bottom of the F1 table, which is super unfortunate because I think that Carlos Sainz has a lot of pace in him, arguably more than Lewis Hamilton at this point in his career, but I won't get into that. It's just unfortunate that Carlos Sainz is leaving for such a team that is Williams at this state of their F1 career, I guess you could call it. They are no longer the team that they once were. At one point, Williams was winning F1 championships, but that is not the state that they're in. Obviously, with Alex Albon, he's been one of their bright spots, but there's very little to be happy about in Williams the last couple of years. I think they've finished in either 8th or 9th the last few years, and they're just not a great F1 team. So it is a little unfortunate that he's going from such a good F1 team, one of the best, arguably the best in F1 history to Williams. But yeah, obviously he won a couple races last year. He's one of the best drivers in F1. And what can you, I mean, Carlos Sainz, just an overall likable guy too. Obviously, he has the smooth operator thing that he always that he says after race wins, and he's just one of the more likable characters in F1. Is like pretty unselfish with the way he drives, and he's a team first type of guy. So the fact that Ferrari's losing him is really unfortunate. And I wish they could have. Obviously, they had a battle between McLaren and Ferrari towards the end of it. It always felt like McLaren was going to pull it out, but if they could have sent him off with a World Championship victory, that would have been awesome. But unfortunately, he will likely never see one in his F1 career.
Absolutely. And there's one more pretty big move that happened this season. Liam Lawson is now part of Red Bull, and that is because Sergio Perez, he left Red Bull. Any thoughts about Sergio Perez leaving Red Bull?
Ooh. I mean, his performances did not dictate him staying in F1 for much longer. His performances have really fallen off a cliff, really, since Red Bull's dominant car in 22 and near the back end of 23. You see Sergio Perez was barely accounted for a third of what Max Verstappen scored in the points total. He's the reason why they didn't win the Constructors' Championship. And so it makes complete sense as to why Sergio Perez is no longer with Red Bull. However, Liam Lawson jumping from the junior team and being the reserve driver, skipping Toro Rosso and going straight to Red Bull is a crazy move. You're looking at with Yuki Tsunoda, who's been there several years and has scored points and beat out Daniel Ricciardo, my former favorite driver.
Okay.
And beating out Yuki Tsunoda for that Red Bull seat was a lot of what people didn't think should happen. And so they're taking a leap of faith, sort of like Mercedes here with Kimi Antonelli, and I think you could liken the two. Is they're looking at that up-and-coming driver to pair with their top guy. In Mercedes, you had George Russell. In Red Bull, you have Max Verstappen with Liam Lawson.
Absolutely. And Perez, 35 years old. He was the runner-up in the Drivers' Championship in 2023, but they're getting a lot younger with Liam Lawson at 23 years old. Now, just to kind of give a recap of the top 6 teams or so in F1 this season with all these moves. For McLaren, no changes. Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. And then Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton with Ferrari, which just sounds weird to say. Max Verstappen, Andrew, and Liam Lawson, as we mentioned, with Red Bull. And then George Russell and Kimi Antonelli with Mercedes. Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll with Aston Martin. And Carlos Sainz and Alexander Albon with Williams. So I really quickly want to ask if each of you, who do we think, which team is going to win this season, and maybe even driver?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's hard to bet against McLaren. They won in pretty dominant fashion last year. Obviously, they had some races where there were some DNFs and then some kind of results at the end of the season where you would have liked to see them improve upon a little bit more, especially given the fact that they look to have the fastest car. But at this point, it's hard to say that they wouldn't be the favorites going into the season. Obviously, you have a Red Bull team that with Liam Lawson hopefully gets at least a little bit better. Sergio Perez, from the start of the season to the end of the season, just was underperforming every single race. It felt like, whether it was qualifying or the race. And then you look to a Mercedes team who was kind of in the mix last season, but they are obviously bringing in a new driver, and then with engineering, I just would like to see a little bit more out of them. And then I just can't see anyone taking the spot of the papaya this season. But I mean, if anyone were to do it, I'd probably give Max Verstappen the best shot because obviously, 4-time reigning and defending world champion. So what can you say, Max Verstappen, leading up to possibly being the GOAT sooner rather than later?
Yeah,
maybe, potentially. Robert, do you agree with what Andrew said?
I mean, I love an underdog story, and I would love to pick Mercedes here. I think Kimi Antonelli near the back half is going to fill his potential, but I'm going to go with the Constructors' Championship in Ferrari. Ferrari outscored McLaren in the last couple of races last year, and they're bringing in the experience of Hamilton. I think Leclerc outscores Hamilton, but Ferrari will take McLaren's title for the Constructors' Championship, and I can't bet against Max Verstappen just squeezing every ounce of performance out of that Red Bull.
Absolutely. Now, we will definitely be talking about this again once the F1 season starts, but that is it for today. Thank you guys very much for coming on. This was very fun.
That's it?
I know.
No.
I'm so sorry. Just we'll be back in like a month.
Okay.
We have a year-long season to do this.
Until then, I'll be playing Lewis Hamilton in Fortnite.
Yes,
so.
absolutely. I will
we're
be
the
as
$10.
well. Now, after this commercial, I'll be giving you a little bit of a rundown on how All-Star Weekend is going to go, so don't go anywhere.
never got me anything for my birthday.
I don't even know what that is. I thought birthdays were every 100 years like the Kids' Choice Awards.
What?
Finally, he's here, man. He's always late.
Who?
Marcus?
You good?
I'd give them one of these, and one of these.
Behind every on-screen moment is a whole team of engineers and technologists.
And you can be a part of such a team through SMPTE at UCF. You'll join a team of students just like you who are ready to innovate the future of TV and film.
With SMPTE at UCF, you'll be able to connect with local industry pros, learn about new technology in the industry, as well as get backstage experience that really matters. Join SMPTE for a backstage pass to all of this.
We meet every last Monday of the month for our general body meetings. There we discuss how new technology is being used to create new media, and we get to highlight local professionals and their specialties.
On top of that, we have some site visits planned, so tune into our social media to be notified of when those will happen.
So if you're ready to pull back the curtain and find out what really happens behind the scenes, join SMPTE at UCF.
And welcome back. I alluded to it 2 times earlier in the show. The NBA All-Star game is this weekend, and there's so many events, so we're just going to jump right into it because it's a little bit confusing. So I did some research for you. Now, tomorrow, Valentine's Day, Friday, the celebrity game starts at 7 p.m. Team Barry Bonds with assistant coach 2 Chainz versus Team Jerry Rice, assisted by Kobby Lame. Highlighting Team Bonds is Kai Cenat, Noah Khan, and former 2-time All-Star and 2003 All-NBA point guard Baron Davis. But I think Team Rice is much more stacked with 2017 NBA champion with the Warriors and current podcaster Matt Barnes. Chris Brickley, one of the best basketball trainers in the world, comedian Drewski, country singers Walker Hayes and Shabuzi, and NFL Hall of Fame receiver T.O. Terrell Owens. So, as always, that should be pretty entertaining. Then following that is the Rising Stars tournament, not game. You'll sense a theme here. They changed what used to just be a battle between one team of the best American-born first and second-year players versus a team of the best young international hoopers. Now, there's 4 teams of young players facing off in a bracket, with those teams drafted by honorary captains Tim Hardaway, Mitch Richmond, and Chris Mullen drafted said teams, and Jeremy Linsanity drafted the 7 best G League players. That's all for Friday, though. Saturday starts at 6 p.m. with the HBCU Classic, and then the iconic All-Star Saturday Night starts at 8. When I was younger, I looked forward to this night for at least 3 weeks. It was always more popular than the actual All-Star game. Luckily for us, though, they haven't changed much about this. First is the Skills Challenge, which I remember this is what started Bam Adebayo's prime for me, winning this competition in 2020. But then in 2022, they changed it to a team competition where trios would compete. This year, it's duos. Team Cavs, consisting of Evan Mobley and Donovan Mitchell. Team Rooks, which is Zachary Risachet and Alex Sarr. I don't really think they'll win. Team Spurs, which is Wemby and Chris Paul. And then Team Warriors, which is Moses Moody and Draymond Green for some reason. Also not a winner. Easily going to come down to the Cavs versus Spurs, and I'll take Wemby and CP3. Next is the 3-point contest with Jalen Brunson, Cade Cunningham, Darius Garland, Tyler Hero, Buddy Hield, Cam Johnson, Damian Lillard, and Norman Powell. I'll be pulling for Tyler Hero, no doubt, but I think the early favorites are Buddy Hield and Dame, who I think will take it. Then the infamous dunk competition, except it's lost so much aura over the last couple years with absolute nobody's competing. And that's not a knock on Mac McClung, okay? He can dunk, but he isn't even an NBA player. He's a G Leaguer. And to some people, this year's no different. I really like Spurs rookie Stephon Castle and think he has a great chance. Bucks second-year player Andre Jackson Jr., who averages 3 points per game for his career. My Rookie of the Year pick that isn't looking great, Modest Buzelis. And then he returns Mac McClung. He's won 2 years in a row, and if he follows the Chiefs in search of a three-peat, that won't end very well. Listen, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. I'm picking Modest Buzelis to win the dunk competition this year. Finally, on Sunday is the All-Star Game, or games. 24 All-Stars were named this year, and Kenny Smith, Shaq, and Charles Barkley drafted 3 teams of 8 to compete with, head-to-head. Now, I know what you're thinking. How are 3 teams competing? Well, similar to the Rising Stars, how a team of G-Leaguers was randomly thrown in. For the real All-Star tournament, the winning team for the Rising Stars tournament will be that fourth team, then represented by WNBA legend Candace Parker, not the winning representative from the Rising Stars tournament. Now, the teams are as shown, and Kenny's team is basically a second Rising Stars team in itself. Chuck decided to play bully ball and draft almost every big man available, and Shaq's is kind of a retirement home. With that being said, though, Chuck and Shaq's teams should be the easy favorite for the championship. Chuck has the two best players in the league in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Jokic, plus Donovan Mitchell, Wemby, and other stars. Plus, he would have had the third best player in the world, in my opinion, in Giannis Antetokounmpo, if he weren't injured. He's replaced by Trae Young. Shaq paired LeBron, Steph Curry, KD, Dame, James Harden, Kyrie, who is Anthony Davis's replacement, and the Celtics star in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, which, by the way, he has the last 3 All-Star MVPs in Dame, Tatum, and Steph, respectively. So there's a lot of changes to this year's All-Star game, and I think they're just doing way too much, but ultimately most of it will be entertaining. You may have realized I didn't mention Kevin Hart in the celebrity game. He's taking a year off from actually playing basketball, and he's going to be the first ever MC for the All-Star game. That should be interesting and hopefully not get too annoying. And last but not least, I know you were waiting for this reminder, LiAngelo Ball will, in fact, be the halftime show. Lots to live up to with Kendrick's performance only a week earlier in the Super Bowl, but that doesn't for me. If you were confused about the All-Star game like I initially was, hopefully you understand better now. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you next week, and have a great rest of your day.
Things gon' change when I really hit the field. Undefeated champs, man, you know what's the deal. Tryna find a kid, I'm in the field doing drills. Boy, you just a sucker, you ain't never keep it real. 3 rings in my hand, I'm a warrior to the max. When I hang it up, they gon' have to give me plaques. Step up in the building and I only bring the facts. When I make a highlight, they gon' replay, run it back, okay? Always locked in, I don't got time to lax.